So she needs, yeah, so she'll be here about 20 of.
I'm gonna give it 5 minutes.
Is that your new company?
Yes. In order. And please stand for the pledge of allegiance. What's not on there, I don't think. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just remain standing for a moment of silence. Okay. So, moving on to new business. First item is item number 1, which is discussion and authorization to hire a finance director.
Thank you.
To appoint Danielle Andrews to the position of finance director.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this? That being said, take a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Can we hear a little bit from Danielle? Rick, before we vote?
Sure. Oh, why not?
Mhm.
What?
Tell us a little bit about yourself and
I currently work as the treasurer in West Greenwich. I've been there for 29 years working in West Greenwich. I've worked as the treasurer for 12. Worked my way up from tax assessor's clerk to finance department. I'm ready for a change. I grew up in Richmond. I worked here for a year and a half or whatever before I went to West Greenwich.
Where do you live now?
West Greenwich. 12 minutes.
Oh, your losses are gains.
you work in the school department as,
No, it's a town
at
hall.
the town hall?
Yeah.
But you very familiar then with
Yes,
being a
Yeah.
regional school district too?
yes, yep.
Um,
We have Exeter and West Greenwich.
Right.
Saying regional. Actually, Richmond and West Greenwich are very, very similar. Pretty much everything.
Good. Good.
Any questions?
No. I'm excited.
I'm excited. I'm very excited for a change and be great.
Laura, you're gonna stay on for a little bit too?
I will
Make
make
the transition?
myself available for as long as she wants me. I may be remote. She might be calling me while I have my knee replaced, but I will be in the area and I'd be more than happy to
I
help out.
remember when we hired Laura, so she served well and I'm gonna
Thank you.
miss you, Laura.
Thank you.
Yeah, we wanna, I personally wanna thank you for your service.
Oh, thank
To the town. You've been very, very pleasant.
You have an amazing replacement coming in.
Good.
So we were voting. Thank you very much. So I.
Aye.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You do not have to slide. I know you
I
have a
will
budget,
for a little while.
budget hearing. Okay.
Again, welcome to the team.
Thank you.
And our next item of business is the 24-25 municipal budget.
Hi.
Aye.
So this year, every year I tried to be a little more transparent about the process and the numbers and I prepared for you a memo just so that you would know what had transpired between originally it going to the departments, to myself, to Karen, back to me, back to the finance board, who has put their final copy along with the town administrator to you. And this year's budget was actually prepared with the understanding that the people in Richmond are asking for as much tax relief as fiscally possible. And that is how we prepared the budget all the way through. The departments kept in mind that, we needed to keep the same level of service. But we also want to continue to support our employees so that they stay. So basically, there are two parts to our budget, which is the municipal side and the educational side. The education, of course, as you know, is by Charahoe School Committee, and thankfully, the budget was actually passed yesterday. So some years we have to make revisions, but this year it's already been approved. So the numbers in our budget are the school numbers as it was adopted at the referendum yesterday. One note is that the governor's budget has not been passed yet. So one of our large numbers is about $6 million of state aid for education. It's in here as the governor's recommended dollar amount. It may change. It did last year. So we can't do anything but go forth with the number that we have of the $6.1 million. And if we know there's a change between now and the time it goes to referendum, that information will be brought back to you with the revision to be made. But
Last year, they cut it by a pretty decent.
they did, and we actually were able to support the change by fund balance. Both, there was a reserve set aside years and years ago for school for that instance. So we used the fund balance as well as some more general fund balance so that taxes didn't change when the governor's budget changed. So like I said, the school's expenses are around $22 million. This year, they are only supported by the state aid and taxes. Last year it was state aid, taxes, and fund balance of about 112. So we didn't have that 112 to put back in. So thankfully, state aid went up. So the taxes are pretty stable, the amount that we need from taxes this year for this education. On the municipal side, our resources come from state aid, fund balance, and taxes mostly, as well as some miscellaneous revenue. Tax rate this year is looking to be somewhere around, it is currently 14.76. We are looking to have it come down to about 14.66 or 67. We're within a penny. Again, it depends on where we end our budget. And it also depends on what the governor's budget is going to do with the reimbursement for tangible tax. That has not been set in stone. I have a number in the budget, which is where we think it's going to land. But honestly, the difference will be either taxes, if the governor's number comes up, then we can lower taxes another, maybe a penny,
Yeah.
or the other way around. So we're not talking huge dollars, we're talking a penny one way or another.
Right.
The unassigned fund balance was used this year of about $300,000. That keeps us within the reserve. We have between 15 and whatever, 25, 30, we can go up to 50%. I like to go with the guidelines of keeping 2 months or 16.67% of our fund balance available as unassigned. It gives us flexibility and liquidity in our cash because our tax collections come in like in June and then not again until September. And a lot of our expenses can come up in those first 3 months. So there sometimes can be a cash flow issue, and that fund balance helps with that. And again, if the governor's budget gets changed, again, we have a little bit of flexibility, but it's sitting around that 16%. It's 16.3, I believe, as it sits in the budget right now. Okay, the municipal side of the budget is up about $200,000.
Mr. President?
Yep,
I have one question.
Yes.
On fund balance, obviously, that includes municipal and school.
the school holds their own fund balance of,
Okay.
what do they have sitting in with this 2.1%? Yeah, and we are sitting, with our unassigned fund balance.
So we don't put any money aside for the 21 million for the school end of our fund balance. It's only municipal.
Well, they are, the 16% includes our contribution to Charahoe.
Okay.
Okay, so the total budget, it being $22 million, or give or take, or $30 million. So if our budget's $30 million right now, the unassigned fund balance is 16.27%. And that's again, within the policy that town councils have set and GFOA has set.
Because when I was at a school committee meeting and I asked Ned Draper, out of the 2.1 million, 2.2 million, your fund balance, that, Richmond is like 34% of that. So we're already getting taxed for the fund balance for the town of Richmond. Out of that 2.1 million, Richmond.
They are holding funds in their fund balance that came from Richmond
For the school.
Right.
for the school. You are
So-
correct in that assumption. Yeah,
So what we're
but
doing
we
is
can't take it back, which is why, keeping to the reserve policy of the 2% is
So
not such a
we're
bad.
we're basically double dipping in that. We're putting the fund balance in municipal and school for the 16.27%.
However, we
1%.
have no control over Charahoe's fund balance.
Once we send them the money, it's their money.
Right, and they can. Yes, I'm not going to comment any further. It is there. On that
I'm
issue.
just thankful that we kept the fund balance at the recommended level essentially last year, because when
It,
a
It-
business chose not to pay their taxes, it would have otherwise really upended that.
or the other side of it was we were able to use fund balance when the governor's budget changed
Right.
without having to go back to referendum for, a tax rate change. Correct.
And in that first quarter, our first payment to Charahoe is due, which is why you suggested that it makes sense to have a larger fund balance so that we can
Right,
make that, so we can dip in if we need to make that first payment.
right.
to
July
Charahoe.
1st, we give them 1.2 or $2 million. So, that's a quick chunk out of our cash reserve. Let's see, any other question on the revenue side or the
Good.
resource side? So as far as personnel goes, it's a large part of our budget. In here is a cost of living increase of 3% for the employees. In here, I'm making changes tonight. Health insurance is estimated in the budget at an increase of 10%. It is actually coming in with health at an increase of 2.3. And dental is going down 1.4. Thank you to the trust.
What dental company do?
Delta Dental, but we're through a pooled system with the trust, which has been huge for us over the years.
So did you say the increase in the
Health,
health is only 2%?
2.3%,
Wow, that's great.
and dental went down.
Well, that had a lot to do with what claims that the trust had the previous year.
There's a lot of factors
Yeah,
associated
right.
with the rates
That's
with
one
the
of them.
trust
Yeah.
there.
And we are pooled with Charlestown and Hopkinton for that, right?
For
Or is it
their-
just- Or is it just Hopkinton? Both.
No, it's
right?
both,
Yeah.
yeah, we're
So
all
with
three.
their experience in addition to ours.
Right.
So-
To make us a bigger group, which gives us more credibility. And also the trust actually has grown the pool. So they actually have what it's called credibility. They have a larger credibility now, which gives them a larger pool to work with and claims. So apparently it's working out very well.
Well, that's good. Claims, it's a big part of it. If not the most, claims are down. That's good.
Pension contributions, actually, the police contribution went down from 9.85% to 8.3%. I believe that's because they are funding or funded at a higher level, so their rate comes down. The town employees went up, theirs went from 7.55 to 8.24% contribution, the employer's share. Let's see. I'm going to make some changes. I had to wait for the vote for the finance director before I could make changes in the finance department budget. So we will be reviewing the finance department's budget. Basically, I wasn't sure of the health plan. I wasn't sure of wages. I wasn't sure of even staffing. And we've made some staffing changes. So tonight we will review that as well. Debt service, we already had the bond because we anticipated going for the 2.5 last year. So, yeah, go ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, please do.
The rates for the health insurance,
Yes,
do we have a buyout policy? Because I know years back we did, where
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
they
If we
don't
don't
pay,
make it. we
Yes.
still do.
right, you give them X amount of dollars
And
for.
it's very minuscule
It's-
compared to what the
It's-
health
it's
plan
like what the
costs.
plans- But there are employees that do take. that
Yes, there
out
is.
and
yes,
All right, to do that?
Yep.
Okay, good.
yes. Yep, absolutely. Yes, that saves us a lot of money.
Maybe look at, again, it goes along with that. We should look into that to maybe and make it a little bit better incentive, maybe to get more people to to jump into that.
I don't find that our employees like, have double coverage. You know what I mean? They, as an employee comes on, honestly,
You know, we could-
for the $3,000 that, they get for a family plan,
And the family plan costs,
20,
Yeah.
right, so.
Hmm. Something we can look into, just crunch number.
I mean, it's more a matter of you can't tell them what to do,
Hmm.
but we say, but you can. And some people do get.
I think it's awesome that you offer that.
It's some bonus, for not taking healthcare if your spouse has coverage or you have, I can't imagine having coverage someplace else that's less expensive.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Debt service. I already had the debt service in because we anticipated issuing that $2.5 million sooner. So our budget for the $2.5 million was already there. So there isn't a big increase of a couple $100,000. Side note, if you want to go out for some reason for bonds, for next year, you will have the opportunity to put it on the November ballot. If you so choose and want to change it. We already did 2.5 for the roads. We already are doing the 400 projects 400, the 300,000 for the forelog, which does not come into play here. That is the water fund. That's all water customers. So that does not come into play. But as a side note for next year's budget, our debt service, one of our bonds drops off. So there's a couple $100,000 in not 25, 26's budget, which will be available.
When does the police budget, police contract come up for renewal?
It will be negotiated come next January for next June.
Okay, so we'll give a little in one area and take a little on the other.
One of the items that did, so capital, we basically level fund is kind of a pay-go reserved system at this point, because we bonded for the roads. We were doing pay-go for the roads for a few years while the debt service was going away, so we picked up more debt service and we cut the pay-go for the roads. So it's kind of a level funding of about 400,000 that we put in for capital. In operating expenses, our biggest increases were tipping fees for the state and electricity. Our electricity went from 6 cents to 12 cents a kilowatt, which is still actually a good price, but we set a contract for that. So yeah.
President, the tipping fees at the transfer station,
Yep.
now that Hopkinton is using
Yeah.
the transfer station, just a question to
Yeah.
you, is it costing us
No,
money? We're making enough to cover the costs.
correct. Hopkinton pays us a flat fee of $75,000 a year. And then their residents are charged the same rate as our residents are for disposing of their recyclables or their trash.
And how long have we been under that contract?
This will be our.
Here in
Been
July.
at least a year.
It'll be a
This
year
is
this
our
July.
second year, yeah.
So
It'll be a year.
So the balance in that line item is what? For the first full year?
We don't keep it that way. The revenue for the transfer station goes into the general fund. The expenses for the transfer station are on the expense side of the general fund.
What were they? Just that way.
It's right there in your budget. So expenses, well, we also changed, can't do apples and oranges for those 2 years because we also changed the personnel structure. When we picked up the transfer station, we added one person for another 8 hours into the transfer station. That was DPW, and we also changed DPW personnel. So I can't do apples and oranges without doing a not from this document, I would have to step away to do an apples and oranges for that. But that being said, on a different scale, if I go down to transfer station.
Just that,
Yeah.
this is a related question, but
Yes.
are we still giving a portion of our tipping fee to the Charahoe school system, or was that just a one-time? That was,
Oh, you mean the
The
recycling?
cap, we
Yeah.
gave them some of our cap.
we're not doing that anymore, though, right?
I don't think so.
I don't know off the top of my head, that's a,
But didn't we get some
That was like, there was
Hopkins cap?
that was a no cost thing.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Because there
Yeah.
was,
2018, 2019 is when I remember doing it. And then-
right, but there was no cost to us in that because we didn't need all of our
Right.
cap. You know, what happens is if you tip over your cap, you pay a higher rate,
Yeah,
but we never got to our cap, so we were able to give Charo some of our cap without it costing us anything.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a win-win.
so actual expenses last year were 322,000. The budget was 374,000, so we came in about $50,000 less than budgeted on the expense side, and this year we're planning for 400,000,
What was
rough
the-
numbers.
What was the revenue?
Now I'll go to revenue. Let's see.
If I can.
Well, I know
there's-
75 was, yeah.
Yeah. There has been an increase in Richmond residents obtaining stickers now that Wesley does not allow residents to utilize their transfer station. So we've seen a pretty Richmond. So we had a lot of Richmond residents that utilize Wesley transfer station, and since Wesley's transfer station no longer allows anybody but Wesley residents, we have seen an uptick in issuings of our transfer station permits to our residents.
Well, I think that's the same for Hopkinton, because I think a lot of Hopkinton residents. like,
Yeah.
It was kind of like half and half.
Correct, yeah.
And back to the cap, we got Hopkinton's cap back.
Right.
So that helps us on our recycling. Transfer station revenue last year was 305. In 2023, we put in for 300,000 as a budget. This year, we're putting 300,000 in for a budget.
So we're just kind of barely breaking even with that.
Until we get a feel of a better running history for the transfer station, yes.
Well, in essence, it's so close, we're actually, really losing money on that.
Losing, but not losing very much. That's the good thing. I was afraid we were losing more.
Well, the adopted budget in 23 was 175 for revenue. And the expenses budgeted at 250. So we were anticipating a loss, a budgetary deficit when we budget. So yes, general fund taxes do support the transfer station.
Yeah, it's something we can revisit because we want to make sure that it's not, expense and revenue neutral. Because when there's expenses at the transfer station, if they want to build a new structure, whatever, there should be money in there.
Well, that would be general fund balance. It's all general fund. We don't keep a special revenue for the transfer station.
Hmm.
We don't isolate and the expenses and the revenues. Kind of the same with building and zoning, the same with, every department, almost every department. That clerk's office, that, it's general fund, it's general services, and transfer station is part of general services, but well taken. We can look at the fees. One of the things might be to see if our fees are in line with other towns at this point.
Hmm.
We do that every few years.
Every
so
few
we'll
years.
Probably due to look at the fees.
Right, so that might be something to look at for the next budget. As I
Yeah.
look around.
With inflation, we're staying up so much. I think it would behoove us not to do, these look-sees.
A little bit of a
every 2 or
study.
3 years, it really
Yeah.
should be done. Now, because of inflation costs going up, we're really on a yearly basis.
Right.
You know, because some people could complain that, hey, look, I don't use the transfer station. So, but, you know, it came into a shortfall and I'm paying, you know, that kind of deal. So I would, you know, personally, I would, you know, my view would be is to make sure that we keep, you know, it positive.
Right, but you know, this being
Yeah.
just the start of the second year
Mhm.
of having Hopkinton here, we wouldn't have had a lot of usage to know what our recycling refunds are coming back at and that type of thing, or if we needed more personnel or don't need more personnel, so.
So what is the fee for a pass for Hopkinton resident to use the transfer station?
There isn't one, that's why they pay us the 75,000.
5,000.
The town
Oh.
covers the whole thing.
But
The
they have-
tipping fees were revised, July 1st, 2022. So not to be confused with what we pay Johnston. What people pay when they come to the transfer station for specific items or just poundage of regular waste was, changed in July of 2022.
So it'll be 5 years, that'll be perfect.
Yeah, not to believe this anymore. If we put it on the agenda, we can look at it.
Well, I'm glad to, my concern was that I don't mind having us carry the transfer station a little bit because people save money by not having home pickup of the trash. I just don't want to carry Hopkinton.
Mm.
So I just would like the cost of it to be,
And we're starting to be able to track it.
yeah, good.
We got a new cash register at the transfer station and we coded it so that we know who are Richmond and who are Hopkinton. However, we manually will have to go back and do that study. We don't keep track of it every time we get a deposit, but we do have that information
Great.
that we could pull if the study was to happen.
Sure.
Okay. Any other questions on general issues? If not, I would love to go and give you some of the specifics of the changes that I would like to make to the finance committees.
I have a question. What it looks to me is if there are two different pensions that are coming out.
Correct.
Could you explain that and what the percentages are?
Yes. So we have a TIAA,
Yeah,
which is a defined contribution. So when you retire, it's like a 401k, 457B. It's a dollar amount that you put in and the town put in. Employees put in 5, town puts in 1%.
okay, they put 5%, okay.
Okay.
I saw it said 1% of wages.
And that's the town,
That's
the
town's
employer's
part,
share.
okay, yeah,
As far as the MERS plan, the municipal employees retirement system,
yeah,
that's where that 7.55% went to 8.25,
Yeah.
8.24. That is the employer share. That's a defined benefit plan with the state.
so the town actually ends up putting 9.24% away for the.
For the
employee.
municipal employees, yes.
And that hasn't gone up that much over the last 3 or 4 years.
No, because we are actually funding it in our actuarial, we get the state does an actuarial study for us every year, and then they tell us what our contribution is.
I looked at the last 2 or 3, 4
Yeah.
years and yeah,
Pretty good.
it's been pretty good. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a question about, it's on page 7 of my documents. Says, NADA Online Motor Vehicle Pricing Guide.
Yep,
Do we need that anymore?
yes,
But we're not charging car tax anymore.
but she needs it for like, other motor homes and
Oh, okay.
other tangibles, I think. she does still need that guide.
Okay. And there was a thing, do we have a canine dog?
We do.
Okay, I've never seen that.
He's in, he,
Stay out of
she,
trouble.
in training. Yeah. Cool.
You wanna go department by department and we can just ask if you have any questions, and if not, we just go on to the next one instead of jumping around, or?
Sure, I would rather go methodically through it than.
They're jumping around.
No, but I didn't know if anybody else had any concerns that prior to that, so if
Right.
we go in order, then.
I struggle with ADHD, so jumping around is.
Yeah, you can, so Erin's going to, put on the screen behind you, but I can, it's the one that. Yes. So I already, took the opportunity to pre-fill the, town council column on the budget so that when we are done tonight, I can make the, change and the budget would be ready at this point for the public hearing. So you can go over to expenditures for me. And you're gonna have to shrink it.
What page is that?
Expenditures.
So it's the first page of your expenditures and it'll start with town council.
All right.
So I have no other changes to town council. It's level funded again. So that's basically $7,000. Building and zoning, other than the general things that I said, I have changes totaling about $2,600. So if you go all the way, if you pull it all the way over and up. Right, that's okay. I
Just shrink
look
it, I
at these
can't.
all day.
Yeah.
I look at these all day.
Okay.
So in the far column, so I have about $2,600 that'll change in that department in personnel for the change of health and dental. Coming down, not up. We can scroll down further. No other changes in that department. Town clerk's office, same thing. It's about $3,100 that it will be coming down from the 244 to 241. That's just health and dental. The next one is legal, I think is the next thing.
You like me?
IT did not change from what was in your packet. The next one being legal, and I actually,
There we go.
I put an extra $15,000 as a contingency to raise it. But in speaking with our solicitor, he does not feel we are going to need that. So actually, right now, we can take that 15,000 back out. Finance office. There are lots of little changes here. First thing that happened was I was on a buyback for a two person, and Danielle's coming in with a family plan. So that's about $16,500 more. I had some money in contingency down at the bottom. It's healthcare contingency. I have reduced that contingency. So just so you know, it's not an increase of 16 right here. The other things I would like, would change are, the health, the pension, both the MERS and the TIAA, I think changed. So basically, I'm looking for another $12,000 to be put into personnel. Then I would like to adjust some of the expenditures. I did not do continuing education. However, we have new staff and we have between the new finance clerk and the new finance director who loves to do, who enjoys and loves the continuing ed, that I am proposing that we put additional funding in the total of about $3,700, so that the finance budget bottom line is going up $16,000. So where I have found savings, I put into the operating budget, so that what the net result is an increase of about $16,000. But on that offset, it would have been the healthcare. So I just kind of moved things around, and I hope you accept that into the budget. As continuing ed is so important, especially when you're looking to have the position continue.
Agreed. Excuse me, the public hearing is next week, not tonight.
Correct, this is the workshop,
It's the
so this is
workshop.
with all the details. You'll be ahead of people if you stay.
But not presenting today.
No,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
We'll see you on Tuesday. See my boss.
If there's something that you want to bring up to me as finance for something, please reach out to me between now and then.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Right.
Assessor's office, if that all goes, so assessor's office, again, it was the reduction in health and dental. Collection, same thing, reduction health and dental. Public works, I reviewed the wages again because we've had a few changes. We had, people we had Bob move up and Gary move up, and so I reviewed the wages again, and I was able to save some money on wages as well as the health insurance numbers. So there's a savings in that department of about $15,000 from what was presented to the finance committee.
Out of curiosity, Laura, how do the wages at DPW department compare to, say, Hopkinton?
That I would not, I do not have the answer to that tonight.
We can certainly find out. We are having trouble filling that last position.
So in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I think our DPW is underpaid. I will state that publicly, so.
Well, certainly, people with that skill set are probably going elsewhere since they don't come here.
Right.
I have considered saying that we would pay for them to get their CDL, which I'm told is about $2,700. And I think we can afford that because we have been not paying a salary since we moved Bob up.
If you do that, Karen, it'd have to be a stipulation that
Yes.
they would have to stay.
For a certain period of time. That was something I was gonna
And
talk
if
to
they-
Chris about the legality of, or whether they would have them sign anything, or how long they would have to stay. There's a lot of,
Not too long ago, I was talking to somebody and they paid, and once they got their CDL, they left.
yes.
With my company and most companies that I've worked for, they pay for any kind of schooling, you gotta stay there a year after the schooling's completed, or else you have to pay it back, but you really can't go past a year. Then it just becomes extraneous, it's difficult to enforce because a person is allowed to pursue other lines of work and so.
That's something Chris and I can talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that, they do have a line item in their budget that only sits at $2,000. It's license renewals, registration, drug testing, et cetera. It's licenses, registrations. If you would like, because honestly, I had the 15,000 I had in contingency for legal. If you'd like to add like $5,000 and make it $7,000, that would afford basically,
I would, I
okay,
think that would be a really good idea.
so let's add.
And I would, again, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn, but I think that just like a small across the board adjustment, the DPW might be a little helpful.
let me make a suggestion.
Yeah, suggestion on that too.
Let me make a suggestion that we put, if you're considering that the funds might be put into, we have a contingency for wages. And we can put those dollars into the contingency for wages, and that affords us the time to do the adequate studies that are necessary, which may not happen prior to the budget actually being set.
I would have difficulty giving an additional raise to one department and not others. And I think that if we're gonna look at DPW, that all departments should be looked at, because I know that we've talked about this before, and the DPW, everything you see them do is tangible. You can see it on a daily basis as you're driving around town, but there's so many other things that happen here in this building that aren't displayed all over the place, like this beautiful spreadsheet. So it would just, I don't know, I would just caution on that front. But while I have the floor, do also want to say that I agree with continuing education and possibly using the opportunity for somebody to get a license as a way to get them in the door, as long as we can keep them. And retention is really important, not only here, but everywhere.
Yeah, I like we had a couple more CDLs that would be good for them, good for us. And I also think we need to look at parity for everybody. If we're going to make changes, and we don't want to just favor one group over the other.
I did do that study in 18, I can't remember what year. There was a year when I did like an all-encompassing comparison. And we raised a lot of our departments quite a bit. In fact, back then, I think DPW was making like $11 an hour or something. They're making 25
Some
now.
people hadn't gotten raises in 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And I hate to lose good people. It's very, very expensive to bring someone in new to replace someone who's good and knows the
Knows the
system.
job, right?
I do think when we're doing it, we do need to take into consideration that we are putting away 10% every year. So sometimes people forget that that's part of their pay.
I think that's one of the things that young people that might be going to DPW don't think about at their age, maybe their young 20s or whatever, and they're not thinking about retirement. They don't realize how beneficial that is compared to going somewhere else where your employer might not put anything aside for you. So
They'll
that's
be
a good
here
point.
tomorrow.
In the private sector.
Well, when we hire them, they know that. Correct?
Oh,
Obviously.
absolutely. They're told that, but
Yeah.
I think they just look at the rate of pay, and they're comparing it to the rate of pay at XYZ company going, oh, well, I can make $30 an hour over there.
Well, the thing is, in this economy right now, everybody's having a tough time filling the positions needed. The joke is, where did everybody go after COVID?
Agreed.
I don't know.
I have no
I
idea.
think anybody who could afford to stay home or get by on less didn't return to work.
Well, myself, I have to work in neighboring states because the type of work I do in Rhode Island just doesn't pay.
There's a lot to employee retention. It's not just salary.
Right.
It can be, I think that continuing education and keeping people stimulated goes a long way. And I think that treating employees respectfully, consistently, I think consistency, not only with respect, but other things goes a long way with employee retention as well.
I don't think that's been a problem in the DPW. Those guys are all,
Why just the
It'd be,
DPW? Why not everybody?
Well, I think Richmond's a great place to work. I don't think that there's any tension that I know of or I can see, and I would just be a rising tide raises all boats, and I would just like to maybe explore doing a little something, because tuition reimbursement and long-term retirement benefits don't pay the mortgage and don't pay your own property taxes if you happen to live in Rhode Island. So,
Laura, do you happen to know how many hours they work in Hopkinton? If it's 35 or 40?
I do not.
DPW probably works 40. Because I have an annual salary for
Right, and Mr. President, while she's looking at that, that's another thing that goes towards employee retention is, work-life balance is valued significantly. I mean, when you're looking at one place to another, if you can work one place for 37.5 and another place at 35 hours, why would you not go somewhere? You know, that's what you want in your life.
Right.
You would seek out somewhere where you can have 2 less hours at work.
And I did the opposite. I went from 35 hours to 45 hours.
I'm speaking hypothetically, not about myself.
That is a
Well,
thing, though.
sure.
There have been people that have come here from other municipalities to work less hours.
Right.
For quality of life. It's a.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like a CDL driver in Hopkinton makes 55,578 a year, which at 40 hours is $26.72 an hour. So it's not quite $2 more an hour. Plus they're a union, so they have to pay union dues out of that as well.
Well,
And I'm not sure what their co-pays and co-shares are.
not,
Everybody.
not that I don't
Yeah.
like unions, but I would rather us pay properly so that people aren't encouraged to stop on. And that would become, you add another negotiating party into the whole mix and you raise expenses and cost. And I'm certain that if we just are vigilant, that we will avoid ever having a union start. Because it's a decent place to work, because there is a good work-life balance, it's a low-stress environment. And they get great town councilors like us to work with. But seriously, I think we should consider some kind of adjustment to keep us competitive. So we can continue to lure fine employees from other towns to this town.
We were very lucky to have Danielle apply, because when I tell you there are no finance directors out there, I mean, we went through this before we hired Laura.
Right.
We had to post it multiple times.
Yeah.
And got no one.
I remember the whole struggle that we went through between Dave and interims and other,
Well, that's why I mentioned the DPW, because it's tough to get these younger kids to come in to do a job. And then on top of that, something that's very labor intensive.
Outdoors in the winter.
Outdoors in the
not
winter and
pleasant
whatnot.
always.
So, I look as an employer, what I can do to entice people to come to me. I pay more than what Connecticut pays their manager, county hall. Believe it or not, okay? That's how, so we look to do these things, and being able to pay for the CDL license will save them about $3,000. And then you divide that over 52 weeks. That's a significant bump up in pay. And there are other companies, and even I do it too. If you work your 40 hours, at the end of the month, you get a bonus if you don't miss a day. That incentivizes people to work the hours that they're scheduled without using an excuse. Because if they do work the other hours and they know that if they miss 2 or 3 days, they lose that pay, that bonus. So there are other incentives too that we can do to keep people responsible too. It's a two-way street. You don't mind offering more, but you also should ask for a little bit more.
Right.
You
We did that at the state police. If at the end of the calendar year, you didn't take any sick days, you got 2 free personal days to use.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Then you run into the issue where they're not taking their sick days, they're not taking their personal days, like, we have people retire and they're literally on vacation for 2 months before they retire, like, that to me, I'm like, I hope that's a personal choice and not an employer choice, because that dials back to work-life balance, but I think we're getting, way off topic now on that one, so I don't like to.
The limit on that can be that you can only carry, let's say, 2 weeks over.
Just to
Not
roll
more
it,
than that.
roll it
Yeah.
back into my original statement. My original statement is I feel that our DPW is underpaid, and I think we should look into a market adjustment.
Look at, other than, like I said, I looked at Hopkinton and we're fairly close, but I will look at other neighboring towns
Yeah.
to see, similar towns.
And again, it does not have to be addressed honestly with this budget necessarily. We can, as I said, put funds aside and then we can do a comprehensive analysis of what we can do. You know, the whole thing of personal days or, you know, there's so many options that we have and so many variables. I think a study would be necessary instead of just changing one particular department at this late stage. So as we go forward, let us determine, you know, what money you might want to put aside in the contingency for such matters as we go down.
Do we want to consider like a wage contingency, just like a lump sum number?
Well, that's what I have.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it.
Is it enough, I
It-
guess is the question.
No, we'll add to it.
Okay.
But yes, I just want to get to that point and I can tell you what money we have saved that we already have without changing the budget that we might be able to put in. If you wanted to add to it, we can also discuss that. Does that make?
We move up in changing these things as we need the people. Like right now, we're short one guy, needs a CDL. We can go out and tackle that one initially. Or for her to pay for the CDL, they have to stay a year, 2 years, whatever the law already will permit us to do. So that way, you know, you get somebody responsible. They understand that we're doing them a great service and in turn, they have to be loyal. And in the loyalty, they have to stay at least a year, if not 2. You know what I mean, to pay for that.
But you're not suggesting that we up the salary
No.
just for the incoming person?
No,
Okay,
no, we're right about there.
My feeling is if we adjusted the salary for an incoming person.
it'd be a mutiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
So with
I've
the
been in that
CDL,
Yeah.
regards where I
we
was
can offer it to
training,
everybody.
years ago, I was training technicians that were
they all
making
do.
$3 an hour more than.
Yeah.
And they drove me nuts.
right,
That's why a good start would be CDL
sure,
license.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So coming away from this conversation, are we also asking for a study on all positions? Is that what we would also ask?
Yes.
for? Oh, just making sure.
Just, you know, like I said, it's good to do that every year, every couple of years, so that way we're staying,
Right.
you know, consistent and we're educated as to what else is happening. I do it myself. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't we do it on a municipal level too? You know, it makes sense. Doesn't matter if it's public or private entities, same thing.
The league does do a survey. I'd have to look at it again to see how deep it goes. Does it go down to the lowest level employee or is it more like department directors and deputies, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll look at that and see how useful that is and maybe just add to it, you know, just supplement what's already there.
We have a
Thank
great
you.
team and I would hate to lose anyone.
Absolutely.
And other things to note is everybody keeps saying, well, what's your co-share for health? Well, it's 15%. Well, that makes a difference as opposed to 20% and I'll raise your wages to offset it.
Right.
Right, yeah.
You know, so, you know, there are many things
Well,
that
my
go,
co-share
or we work,
50%.
right, or we work 30 hours a week and,
Right, there's
you
a
know,
lot to factor in.
again, so there's a lot to consider in that study. Okay, back to our departments. I think we're somewhere around police.
What page?
I don't have the
Doubled my
page.
page.
Public safety?
Public safety,
It's a
yeah.
solid number. That's a
Page
solid
10.
number.
So police administration with the health, it's $1,000 change. With the public safety officers, it's about a $15,000 change. Nope, $8,000 change, sorry. Dispatchers, it's another 2,000, so the whole public safety department will actually come down about $12,000 right there. Animal control is only health and dental change made there on my budget. No change in recreation because they're all part-time employees. No change to the public works, transfer station utilities. There are no employees. Building maintenance, their health is considered in DPW, not under building maintenance.
Sorry.
I'm all the way down to community services.
I have a question for
Three.
Laura.
Look for this.
318.
Yes,
Dispatchers,
yes,
seeing where we're talking dispatches, I think Karen could give some great insight on this. Is when you kind of like regionalize things to, have a cost savings. Is there ever been any talk about dispatching Charlestown, Richmond, Hopkinton, and having one dispatcher or two that are on, and it could be a substantial, savings with that?
Yeah, we've discussed it. I will talk to the chief more about it.
I thought there was something in discussion with Hopkinton.
There was, and it kind of stalled. I'll have to see where they were supposed to get back to us and we haven't heard back.
So basically what it would do, even though it would actually afford more coverage, personnel wise, that type of thing, that is quite beneficial because we do have difficulty trying to find people to take those odd shifts. So, yeah. And Karen has been looking into it. So it's a wonderful idea.
Can we talk to Mr. Rosso and see?
We
if
work
can-
very well with them. We do a lot, as much as we can, kind of in conjunction with them. I mean, we're sharing a building official, we do the transfer station,
Should be that.
their
way.
community center, yeah. I
They
mean, there's a
pulled
lot
up,
of
they
things.
needed a truck
Yeah.
because their truck was
Mhm.
down. We
Yep.
let them borrow a truck.
Yep.
During the snowstorm. Yeah, so it's what you should do, But the dispatcher, I've thrown some numbers around. It could be a substantial savings. You know what I mean on that. So that's something that it could be the start of something, big.
Yeah.
Good. We'll put that on the agenda. Okay.
So then the next department that I would like to discuss, is, the senior center director stipend. So right now he's on a minimal stipend, 26. Yeah, he's on a minimal stipend. And with this budget, we'd like to bring that position up to minimum wage for halftime. So that he actually gets paid for 20 hours at minimum wage. And it does raise that budget up quite a bit, maybe about $10,000.
That's
Well, I
fair.
totally agree.
That's fair.
I'm just letting you know, I mean, this is a,
Yeah.
work session. I just want you to know
We
that
have to be fair.
Yeah,
Can you tell us what, just for the people out in Cyberland, what is minimum wage right now?
$14, and then in January it'll go to 15.
I would say, for all the work that Dennis has done
Right.
for all these years and whatnot, to me, I need to be respectful to the man. I wouldn't even have the audacity to tell him, we're gonna give you minimum wage. I'd like to see it at $16 an hour, because minimum wage is gonna jump to 15, in January. And I really think for the amount of work that this man does and the love he puts into it, I really think to me, it would be disrespectful. I think.
I say that, but he also is going to get longevity on it because I did take into account the number of years he is here. So it's not a straight minimum, it is minimum plus
Okay.
longevity.
Okay,
Just,
Good, well, it still takes care of them.
can we though, instead of minimum, can we do the $15 if the council so sees
Totally up
fit to
to
do
you.
that?
Well, it's going to 15.
It's going to 15 very soon.
I think that, like everything else, we get.
you can address it at that, when you do the study,
Right.
Okay, sure. Fair enough.
deal. Transfer station, again, it's just on the health and welfare. Health and dental. No change in EMA because it's a stipend position. Now we're at contingencies, but let me come back to this. So, under the healthcare contingency, it was at 34,000 when we went to the finance committee. I cut it by the 16,400 that I changed basically up in finance. We are down around 36.
Mhm.
so that I had reduced the healthcare contingency down to 17,006 from 34, because I moved it up. Here is the general contingency, which we have at 40,000. That's for emergencies. Originally, the contingency for wages, let me look at this a second. Was raised up to 30,000 because this is where retirement payouts come out.
Okay.
And I know mine.
Got the inside scoop.
I did, so I wanted to make sure that I at least raised it to what I will be getting for all of my retirement contingency payout.
What is that, come in about, what, 1.1 million?
Oh, I must have missed some zeros when I only raised it $10,000. So that's it for now. We'll come back to put money back into that second line, contingency wages, and that'll be for the study that you may want to do and have some wage money available for wages and benefits. Going down, debt service didn't change. Town administrator, I have a change here. Thankfully, Karen looked at the budget. I had her vehicle and phone allowance at the old amount. I had to add $1,400 to that line. It should be $6,800. Thank you, Karen. I would hate to not have you have the right amount in your budget.
You're gonna have to get you into an electric car.
So the next place that I'm looking is when we get all the way down to other Department 49. It has come to my attention that the street lighting line can be reduced. So I'm going to say to you, let's take that line item down to $3,000 from 8,
Department 49, you said?
correct?
Okay, but that
That's
was
about
really-
505, 105.
Page 25. Yes, I do see this badly. I mean, I'd probably be better off with crayons.
So what that does at this point, I can give you the bottom line, or I can go over to revenue to see what we saved.
Yes,
Okay, let's go to revenue. Oh, in here was the capital transfer of 439,000. Do you want to go over the projects, or did you review them? They haven't changed much.
I reviewed them. I don't see a need to go over them.
Wonderful.
The capital
Improvement plan?
I did want to, if we could, just real quick. I didn't see, when I went through it, any requests for maintenance to our DPW building. So I just wanted to confirm kind of openly that it didn't need any structural changes. That's all, because I didn't see it on there.
Right, there is no major capital improvement planned for that building. However, if it does need maintenance, there is a building maintenance department with minimal, or
You know, they expanded the animal control area.
with a Kimball grant.
Yeah,
Yep.
Right, yeah. Awesome, and I also wanted, I thought it was gonna be like a whole number 2 on our agenda, but I wanted to discuss with council about creating a more in-depth capital improvement plan. And I don't say that anything against this one's great, but what I want to do is more to know what we don't know. I want to see every department's wish list. I want to see their needs list. I want to see things that, whether or not they get funded, I want to know that they're requesting it. Because, you know, we can see this, but if there's something out there that we don't know that somebody's asking for, we don't know about that. And I think that creating a solid list. Again, even if they're not funded this year, we could be aware of them, so that way we can work towards funding them in future years. And I know that department heads put in for what they need, but I'd like to know what they need but aren't asking for, because they're trying to be cautious with our budget, but also things that they want. So,
And
mean,
I,
we do reach out to
I-
them
I-
every year.
right, and
ask what they
but
want.
I would concur with her, and you and I discussed it, is that the department heads should be considering what they want to do for the next 5 or 6 years. And during this budget process is the time to say, I want to put in a new project for, or I want to expand my project for, so that the council can then determine what is coming up for large ticket items or projects, so that if funding comes up, sometimes you can move a project if you knew it was coming down the road.
exactly.
And that's what we find is somewhat difficult from an administrative point of view. Would you not
Yeah.
agree? So it more comes back down to departments and boards and things to actually take maybe a little more time when to think ahead when we ask for the capital plan. And
So
I'll get off my
nice to know
soapbox.
What the wish, like she said, what the wish list is.
Right.
Karen, excuse me, you already do that.
We do to some degree, although, I am kind of thinking like. We get an email, say from Senator Reed's office, says we have grant money, there's earmark money. And then we start thinking way out of the box, like
Right.
way beyond this. So I guess there could be some benefit to a real wish list, like. Stuff that you would never put maybe in your capital, but if you had, grant money that was completely free money with little or no match.
Right, that's exactly what
Even
I'm-
if there's no extra money, having people think about what their wishes would be for the department, there might not be more money. There might be other things that would change.
I think it's a good idea.
Thank you. I don't know how I get the ball moving on that. I don't know if it's a motion to ask people to do something, but
I think it would be a great idea to put it on the next
I have missed that deadline, but we'll get it on the next.
Yeah, well, that's on the next
Okay.
available town
Good,
council.
thank you.
And then we can discuss it and maybe throw some framework.
And some kind of direction at the department heads and the committees, because unless you really go to a committee meeting or read their minutes, you really don't know what they're discussing or what they need. And like I said, everyone's trying to be cautious with the budget, and we appreciate that, but I want to know what you're wishing for. Let's be Santa.
And on another side note, the timeline for that, honestly, is not as far away as you think when we come to the capital budget. We get the capital budget to the departments in November.
Plus the whole
So-
idea of the
so-
wish list gets people thinking.
Thinking about it so
About
that come November, when we throw out the capital, then that is a perfect opportunity, but it'll give them this time to start to think about it.
Well, like Karen said too, it's a good idea to know that these things are, important to that department, and if a grant comes down, you've got, you know what I mean, it right there on
Enough
paper,
involved
then,
to start from.
right, then when the grant comes through, you're not second guessing, can we use it, because you've already got, all right, the request that could have been in fiscal year, say, 26, and the grant comes through in 27. Then there's always the lag time, right, Karen?
I don't know.
Lag time, whether
It's not
it's-
all federal grant money, we got that grant for over there in 20. Right, 2, 3?
Two,
We're still in
3.
the process.
And we
It's
haven't
not-
started
It's
it.
not disappeared, but
Yeah.
So the money still has not come through.
Well, we can't
It-
ask for it. It's a reimbursement
Yeah.
basis.
Oh, reimbursement, okay.
but it's still allocated to,
Okay.
yes.
But with what Samantha's proposed, it will get, rather than just being a functional town, I'd like to be an innovative town. And that would breed innovation, it would get people thinking, it would get people saying, well, maybe it's not impossible to do something different and new. So I just look forward to discussing it in the future.
Thank you.
Are we still working on page 7 of capital improvement?
I've moved on, but tell me where you want to be.
That's-
Are we back to
that's-
revenues?
So I have a question about, it says general building number 78.
Yes,
And only the $52,000 got for the routes and nothing, the nothing else is set up for general building maintenance.
We back in expenditures tab, Laura, or we?
no, I think you're talking capital projects, correct?
Yes.
So you are talking capital projects and you're talking about, okay, so fund number 78 is the building maintenance fund. It is not the capital projects fund and is not the general fund. And we have set aside certain money for the police station. That's at 43,000 that went negative there, positive up top. See right there? So it was transferred to the police station renovations for $43,000. It's not tax dollars. Does that answer your question?
Not really.
Okay, I'm sorry, what was your specific question?
Let's see, 43,17, right, 63, the 60,000. Why does it say $52,116?
Is the balance. And if you go to and I'm going to pull out the detail of the capital projects, which is the
Yep.
other document.
What page?
We're talking DPW last. Page 32. So the balance, it says in the description at the top.
I guess I noted mine as two separate things.
That's,
My numbers don't match yours either, it takes a while.
oh, mine says,
You got it?
But I don't have
It's
to.
Page 32. Oh,
You mean
yeah.
expenditures?
Okay.
you won't have
She's got
it
it.
there.
Oh,
It's having it one way, one page, other side, the other page. Confusing.
It just
Okay,
prints.
31, I have it, 32. Okay.
A purpose is to maintain public facilities, specials, and there's a special fund number 78 that had been set up by the council. Plans are for the projects of the police station for the 43, that was phase 1 of the police.
Yeah.
Use for the railing at the town hall and other small repairs, and use the balance for the town hall roof in 24-25.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming to your question now?
Yep.
Beautiful.
revenues.
Was all yours again.
Okay, so what we have freed up on the revenue side, first, let me say that with the adjustments that I had made that we talked about, it basically had reduced, I had an increase in the tangible tax for about $47,000. So that is now up to 104,068 if you want, but I will be giving you this document at the end of tomorrow morning. You will get this document, which allowed us to lower taxes by $68,443 at that point. We have made some corrections, so I have $13,600 to work with without changing my document again. So I can put 13,000 at a minimum and not changing the tax rate or anything. I can put another $13,600 into the wage contingency line. If you want to add more, please just let me know an additional amount and I will make the adjustments to the taxes because that's where it would come from.
I personally think I feel comfortable in that, and I don't think you should exceed that.
That's
You-
I'm opening this one up for
You feel
discussion.
that- Yeah, I mean, that would be a good place to put that 13,000.
It would be.
Yeah,
We'll have to see what the study brings us before we can make any further decision, but
can you make a motion to put that money right there?
No, if their consensus was to do it, it's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Are you good with
Yes.
that?
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm good.
So how it now sits with this is the tax rate would be $14.66. The median assessed value at the 395,900, which is what the median is. Your taxes would go down about $40 a year.
Great.
awesome. That is like phenomenal news.
And it's really good because I watched the Hopkinton Town Council meetings. And I gotta make sure that I get that extra pot of coffee right next to me. No, they're good. I enjoyed watching that. It's really nice to hear you say that, you know, for the taxpayers of Richmond, you know, you listen to them, you know, you're taking, you know, some of their input, because I hear that a lot in Hopkinton. So it's nice to hear you say that too, Laura, you know, that, you know, it's important because as far as I'm concerned, they're the most important body here, because without the taxpayers, we have nothing. We have nothing. I mean, we could have the best employees and whatnot, but without the taxpayers paying, nobody's gonna get paid. Things aren't gonna get done. So thank you very much.
Well, it's not me, it's a team here and I take the lead from Karen.
You all should take a quick bow. Thank you very much.
So that is where we sit, and with that, this document basically will be completed early morning, and I will have it ready for publication on the website, and you will be getting copies,
Awesome.
and it'll be ready for the public hearing.
Thank you for your incredibly diligent work.
Yeah, it's appreciated.
It's a team.
And I appreciate you spoon feeding us the information as well.
You're welcome, I guess.
So on to what number, Mr. President?
And look for a discussion of municipal court revenue and expenses.
So
Thank you.
do you want to talk about that?
You're on a roll.
So staff has been talking about Muni Court and and
It's gonna fit right in.
we believe that we are close to bringing the more details to the council. What tonight was going to bring was just a matter of whether we wanted to add anything to the budget. And I wanted you to know that we are talking about it. There is, if we decide to go with the police, which I think we are going to recommend that the police also come on, there is going to be a upfront cost, capital cost of about $7,000 for the software for the system. However, I would make the recommendation that we use ARPA funds to as opposed to putting it into the operating and or capital budget, since there are ARPA funds still available. So our recommendation is not to add it to the budget unless you just wanted to put a department name in. But that could be done with the next, you know.
I think ARPA funds is a great idea. It's a great use of the.
I think I think our recommendation when we come to you with a recommendation for the municipal court will be to use ARPA funds for any capital. And then other than that, I believe it will be a neutral revenue expense for the first year. You know, what we would theoretically budget revenue to match whatever the expense would be.
I'm happy that we're going to, when we create this municipal court, that we're going to utilize it for everything, that we're not gonna farm anything out to the state that we don't have to.
Right, Mr. President, on that, I was, that was not my initial suggestion, you know, I started the suggestion with just the building and zoning department. So I'm glad that we're doing the research and making sure that it's gonna work out before we have the police in there. It'll be good.
And there's, Mr. President, there's some very crucial language that you're working on, right? Solicitor?
Yes,
Yes.
you are correct, and I have given an initial draft to the clerk and to the town manager for review. That's gonna be coming back to me, I expect fairly shortly with comments. And just to add on to what Laura was saying, that initial cost when you bring on the police law is, it's my understanding, the software is so that you can interface and connect with the Rhode Island traffic,
Correct.
tribunal, get
Correct.
people's driving history, that's the.
And the
that's
tickets
line.
are e-tickets now, so everything, you're right. Yeah.
Obviously, you looked at, other municipalities and,
I did.
drafting your draft.
You will find it very, very similar to some. You'll find most of them are very similar.
Copy paste, find all changes.
There's, there are, when you review it, you're gonna see I put a portion in there to give the municipal court judge, give that person authority to issue summonses, summon witnesses, give them some real teeth so that they can impose fines. Some municipal courts don't do that. The reason I'm doing that is to get compliance and get payment. You'll find most municipalities do that, some don't. I think you're probably gonna want that, but that'll be your decision. If you want to give that judge those powers, it's probably a good idea. You can certainly discuss it, and whatever you feel is best for this particular municipality, that's what you should do.
Well,
Thank you.
just another question for me, for Xander. In your experience, being 100% out of the gate to cover all the aspects that everybody's thinking about that the municipal court should take care of, do you think in your opinion that we should start off slowly? We target maybe a couple of things that the municipal court will do, and then as we get our feet wet? Or you don't think that would be a problem if we went full tilt with all these ideas that the municipal court should be doing all at the
We
same
already
time?
voted on.
Also, Mr. President, the agenda does
Well,
link
no,
revenue
but-
and expense, and I think that once we see an actual draft of what he's created, we'll be able to comment on it a little better, because right now we'll just be talking hypotheticals, really, but we don't know what his draft looks like. And
And
it says revenue and expense.
and to address what Councilor Colasanti had just mentioned, we had talked about initially going slow, and I suggested that we just dive into it, that it's not like we're reinventing the wheel, we're just adopting common practices that other towns have. Our solicitor has the knowledge of that. I'd like to move forward with it, not drag forward with it.
We can certainly talk about it when you're all ready. Happy to discuss it.
Good.
Thank you.
And last is item 5, which is other, in case something didn't come up in our previous discussion.
I'm good, thank you.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.